So for more, let's bring in Peter Brookes with the Heritage Foundation. He's also a former Navy pilot. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
So will these strikes work? Let's just begin there.
Well, we don't know. Hope so. It certainly sends a strong signal to Iran and to these militias that they cannot act with impunity. We've seen a number of attacks, Heather, I think as many as 11 or 12 over the last couple of months from this militia group, Kataib Hezbollah. And it's about time that we put our foot down and said enough is enough. They not only killed an American contractor, but they also wounded 4 American soldiers in this attack. And if it weren't responded to, it's possible that they would continue. So hopefully they've gotten the message and we'll see a decrease in this sort of violence.
Have we waited too late to respond?
No, I don't think so. I think the United States, once again, our objective with Iran is to get them to the negotiating table about their belligerence, about their malign activities in the Middle East and elsewhere. But at this point, I think they decided that this was enough was enough, and we needed to send a message at this time to Iran and to these militias that we're not going to stand for it.
And speaking of that message, what is Iran actually trying to accomplish here with Iraq and in Iraq?
Well, they want influence in Iraq, of course, Heather. And they have influence in Iraq, including through these militia groups. They're also using Iraq as a place to transport weapons and funding and personnel through Iraq into Syria in their support of the Bashar al-Assad regime there. Iran sees the United States as an enemy. We know that. They want us out of the Middle East so they can advance their objectives, which are to become the preeminent power in that part of the world, creating a swath of power from the Persian Gulf to the eastern Mediterranean, which would include Lebanon. It would include Syria. It would include Iraq, Iran. They have activities in Afghanistan and, of course, Yemen, as we know, and in the Persian Gulf. So they're a troublemaker. They're an extreme threat to international security and to American interests.
Yeah, and of course we have to also consider Russia, their influence in this region, and then the Iran nuclear deal as well.
Right, absolutely. I mean, of course, look, Iran is in non-compliance, is in violation of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, also known as the Iran nuclear deal. They keep pushing, increasing the pressure on this deal, and increasing the violations. This is accepted internationally. This is the case. We have to be very concerned about Iran's direction because we know what they were up to before the deal regarding their nuclear program, and I still think they have nuclear ambitions and ambitions for nuclear weapons.
Let's move on to this. In the meantime, Taliban leaders announcing that they've agreed to a temporary nationwide ceasefire, offering perhaps this window of opportunity for the U.S. to finally cut a peace deal with the group, potentially pulling our troops out of Afghanistan after almost 2 decades, an estimated, 12,000 troops still there. So do you think this is good news? Can we trust the Taliban?
I don't know if we can trust the Taliban. We certainly would welcome a ceasefire. I mean, ceasefires are actually double-edged swords. One is it stops the violence, which is a good thing, and everybody can agree to that. The other problem is sometimes it allows the opposing group to find time to recuperate from military operations. So we would like to see we would like to see this ceasefire give breathing room to negotiations and diplomacy to try to finally find an end to this long war. But the Taliban, they have ties to Al-Qaeda, other militia groups that are anti-American and dangerous and terrorist in their nature, and we have to be very concerned about them and be cautious in our trust of the Taliban at this point.
Well, when you say be cautious of our trust, then how do we handle something like this?
Well, we handle it from a position of strength. We go into these negotiations from a position of strength. We ensure that we make sure the Taliban understands we are going to protect and advance American interests in moving along here, and also the interests of our Afghan partners. So this is a real challenge. These negotiations have been going on for quite some time. They've been on, they've been off. There's been tremendous amount of diplomatic work done by the Americans. These negotiations started once again in December. They're at this stage. We'll see what happens with a ceasefire if the Afghan or the Taliban are actually able to support it. If they don't have factions of their groups that might decide to take up violence regardless of a ceasefire. We'll have to see how long the ceasefire lasts. Some are talking about it being for 10 days, but we're kind of in. I hate to say it. We're kind of in a we'll see but at the same time, we need to keep our guard up.
Yeah, we need to bring our troops home. 18 years this war has been going on, our longest engagement. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see what happens.